r/relationships. Trashman Frankie says, my 28 meters wife, 30F, is putting me into a scenario where I may have to cancel attending my best friend's wedding for the birth of my first child. First off, throwaway account, and second off, our relationship is a bit different than most. We have been together for 4 years and married for almost a year, and most of our time together has been long distance. We are living in different countries, about half a day apart by flight, but see each other for roughly 4 months each year. I have 1 more year left of university before I can move to be with her. We would like to have kids and have discussed this before and have come to an agreement that 2 to 3 kids is our goal. My wife gets anxious each time her period happens and is really worried about trying 4 kids past her fertility peak. A while back I said that we can try 4 kids my last winter break of school because I want to be her for the later stages of pregnancy and the birth. However, recently, my best friend is getting married and has told me the month of their marriage before anyone else because he wants to make sure I can make it, since I'm moving out of the country and all. And of course, that month happens to be right smack dab in the middle of when an expected due date would be if she and I were able to convince during winter break. I asked my wife if it would be okay if we postponed until I graduate college to try 4 kids about 5 months later, but this really upset her. We will not be physically together during my last semesters at university. I would rather not roll the dice that both of these moments that I'm really looking forward to would line up next to each other. And I think that postponing a few months is not significant for conceiving, birth complications, and/or birth defects. But my wife thinks differently and is essentially saying that I love my best friend more than her, which kind of hurts. I recognize I'm a dude and I do not have to undergo the burden of pregnancy, nor do I claim to be a doctor that is an expert with pregnancies, but I feel like this is needlessly creating a scenario where I may be unable to attend my best friend's wedding. I love my wife, and this is our first serious disagreement, so I'm not the best practiced for this type of thing, but I do not want this stupid fight to add stress onto what should be a beautiful moment of a relationship and creating a child. I'm wondering if I'm being an asshole in this scenario, or if my wife may be overestimating the risk of health complications of birth by waiting 5 months. Too long. Didn't read. My wife wants to try for a baby within a time frame that would, if successful, have a due date that could fall on my friend's wedding. We are long distance, so next time we could try is after I move to her country, which is about 5 months later. I want to postpone trying so that I could attend both my best friend's wedding and the birth of my child. My wife thinks I love my best friend more than her. And now I don't know what to. Doingunut says, I'm 35 and pregnant. No issues with age. If she doesn't have any known fertility issues, then waiting a few months should be no problem. However, the bigger issue here is you are planning to try to have a kid together and you can't even see eye to eye on how/when to start, and you haven't lived together for most of your relationship. This is a terrible idea. Kids are not a bonding exercise. You need to assume that any tiny problem is going to be magnified times 1000x. Your relationship needs to be rock solid before you go into it. Plus, does this mean you guys were thinking of her getting pregnant and then you being away for another 5 months? So she would need to do all the appointments, all the prep, deal with all the fatigue and sickness alone. I have been so tired and dizzy at points of my first trimester I couldn't even stand up to walk. Pregnancy is no joke. It's hard and exhausting. And it won't get easier when the baby arrives. She shouldn't be alone for that. What if she miscarries? What if something is wrong with the baby? She has to go through that alone. You guys should not be trying until you have moved back home and been living together for a while and are happy you are past the honeymoon period and still on solid ground. And for the record, There's no good time to have a baby there. Will always be a wedding or an event or a big birthday or a holiday or something. At some point you have to accept you are going to need to sacrifice things. So no, you are right not to start TTC then, but for all the wrong reasons. _of says, this is not going to work. From the fact that you still haven't really been living together as a family for more than a year, to her sounding more that she wants a baby maker instead of a man and a father, to the ridiculous fact that you both think that conceiving a baby is like ordering something from Amazon that is going to arrive exactly when you expect it. Don't have a baby together, at least, no yet still. If she is in a hurry, that's her issue, not yours. Never feel pressured by your partner to have kids when you are not 100% sure you want them, and that you will be able to look after your partner during the pregnancy in case you finally decide going for it. Else you are going straight into a disaster. Average says, do not have this baby, it's a terrible idea. You two don't know each other nearly enough to make this commitment, and at the first sign of conflict/boundary setting you're already displaying critical incompatibility. Exquire says, you two are running on different timelines. Can you conceive the first time you try? Yes, it's possible, but it's not as common as it sounds. I did though, but I have a friend who is on month 6 of trying. Miscarriages occur in 1 in 4 pregnancies and first trimester is oftentimes the most difficult. I would imagine she would actually really want you there, as who knows how her body will react. I think you both have valid reasons. Maybe you should try explaining it to her again with your reasons and come to a compromise. Jimmy Jab Gamer 23 says, this is crazy. It's one thing to already be married without actually experiencing living together as an actual couple, but having a baby? You guys really need to rethink how you are going about things here. Live together and experience each other and life together before even considering something like this. Weird scenario. 18,042,369 says, I see the comments here say hold off on the baby. That's okay, but really depends on how old she is. 2 to 3 kids can take years, and she is clearly concerned about her fertility declining. I think the real issue to resolve is her fears about that, rather than just force her to delay, which is not respecting her worries. Respecting and resolving her worries will strengthen the relationship. As an aside, my wife was 35 when she got pregnant on her first unprotected ovulation, and she continued to be unusually fertile. We had 4 kids. r/relationships. Psychological Iron 3 says, my 26 female boyfriend 32 male keeps waking me up in the morning. So my boyfriend and I have been together for more than a year, been living together for almost 6 MOs. For the past week, we've been staying at his parents' house due to medical reasons. He has to go see his doctor, which was in the city where his parents' house is. During this time, he'd try to wake me up playfully, as in childlike playful, at around 6 AM. My work starts at 8:30 AM. I work from home. He also turns the AC off, and he knows that I feel uncomfortably hot whenever he turns off the AC and doesn't turn the fan on. He says he doesn't like turning the fan on because it bothers him. Context: he has ads and the only fan in his room is a ceiling fan, so the air hits him when it is on, and he finds that uncomfortable. I also understand that he thinks that it's a waste of electricity. That's why he turns the AC off as soon as he wakes up, but he turns AC on at night at around 8 PM, just so he can play video games comfortably. I think he just also does it out of routine. Okay, so I know it sounds reasonable, maybe, that I should be awake around 6 AM, but my boyfriend knows that I wake up like 2 to 3 times at night because of 2 reasons. I get random itches at night, which happens a lot, often due to dry skin, and because he snores so loud and sometimes right to my ear when he kind of hugs/spoons me when we're both asleep. So when he wakes me up I get cranky with big dark circles on my eyes. He says he wakes me up because I have work. He wants us to have coffee. He makes the coffee and he does offer to make me fast, but only when he notices that I'm cranky. I told him not to wake me up until like 7:30 because I personally think that 6 AM is just too early for me. This issue doesn't happen when we are in our own place because when he turns off the yak, I have my own fan to use. And I just tell him off when he tries to wake me up. What wakes me up is really the heat. I was thinking of just staying in our own apartment and wait for him to come back next week, his last appointment, but the taxi ride going there is too expensive for me. I have tons of stuff so can't commute. How would you manage this situation? Edit. When I told him to stop waking me up at 6 AM, he kind of lessened the playful thing that he does every morning. Like when he catches himself, maybe hard to break routine because of IDK, but he still turns the yak off, which is really the main thing that makes me get up. They don't have other fans in the house. I can also. Too long. Didn't read. BF keeps waking me up in the morning too early for my work by being all playful and by turning of the yak while knowing that I wake up 2-3 times at 18,042,369 says. I'm a guy. My wife was like that, except for the snoring. Took years for her to accept I really did need to sleep. It would have been better for both of us to get that understood sooner. Frock of Seagull says. Is this different from how he acts in your own apartment? Bujakuman says. I would never allow someone waking me up because. Because what? That is good question. Ariadna Harris says. What did he say when you told him not to wake you up until 7:30 AM? Galaxiclus Bizach says. Lol, does this man actually like you? Frienda Future says. So it's a waste of electricity once he doesn't need it? I have ADD, and there's some common comorbidities like emotional dysregulation and depression, but I've never heard of cheapskate asshole being one of them. Tell him he needs to 1. Not wake you up deliberately or accidentally, and 2. Leave the yak on. Kyrian95 says. He sounds insufferably selfish. Why is it only a waste of electricity when he doesn't need it? And what's the reason for waking you up so early? Also, ADD is not an excuse for these behaviors. Speaking as someone with ADD, he needs to respect your needs. Refrif says. I put up notes on things so my BF don't turn things off. Or on. If he ignores them, then I get mad. But the thing is, my BF and I both have ADD and ASD, so I understand from both ends here. The thing is, I know my ADD can affect shit. So I make sure I don't piss people off with it. People make accommodations for me, so I make accommodations for them. If you have asked him multiple times, that's on him. And something is in the way of caring. I understand maybe his mom is controlling. Did she ask him to turn it off because of electricity bills? Ask him if she's asking him. Because I can see him turning it off to like. Please his mom's request and forgetting to communicate it to you. Waking you up early is annoying as frick though. What does he do when you tell him to not wake you up until that time? Have you told him I have an alarm set, please don't wake me up? Advanced Ad 9658 says. Okay, so I know it sounds reasonable, maybe? That I should be awake around 6 AM. No it isn't. Why do you think it would be reasonable for him to dictate when you can sleep? Jaspergen says. Know what else is a waste of electricity? Playing video games. Tell him to stop turning the yak off. I would go back to your apartment. Sleep is too important. Cultural Emu 3548 says. You shouldn't live with someone if they are depriving you of basic necessities like sleep. I bet if you really pushed for an answer about why he does this, you'd find that he thinks you're lazy to sleep past 6, and he's doing it on purpose to control you. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.